one thing that I keep getting asked about is why our services might be more needed in a time of crisis. So I'm wondering from both of your perspectives and experience that you could speak to why crisis might engender particular kinds of violence.
So generally in a time, there's a couple of different points. One is when you have a lot more anxiety in your life or fear, not being able to connect out to your usual support systems, you may have more elevated symptoms from something that has occurred in the past. And Shannon can talk more about that, I'm sure. But the reality is when there's that social isolation, when you're cut off from those supports, sometimes what happens is you are more of a target for violence in your life. Most often, what we've been seeing coming out over this period of time is an increase of relationship violence. And that relationship violence also includes sexual violence. And it is very important that people make the decisions that are right for them and reach out for help for however they want that support to look like. Some people may feel that they really do not have options, but at least reaching out and talking to someone about it is probably the most important thing that you can do so that you aren't feeling as much isolation during that experience. Generally, with the sexual assault response team, we often see a lot more sexual assaults that occur as a crime of opportunity. So you're at a party or you're out at the bar or different things like that where you're in a much more vulnerable space. And those, of course, have been, those kind of circumstances aren't happening. But definitely what is happening is more relationship violence and relationship sexual assault.
Yeah, I think to build or add on that, another piece of this is we're going through this global experience of a crisis and trauma right now. So everyone is reacting and coping in their own different way. And for some people, namely people perpetrators of violence, that is a way to cope with trauma, with uncontrollable situations. So people sometimes respond with violence when in the state that we're currently in. So that can lead to increase in acts of violence because those people are dealing with all the stresses of this. And it's, I'm not making an excuse for people to perpetrate violence, but saying that it can trigger that as a response to this uncontrollable situation that we're all in. A lot of sexualized violence we understand as an act of power, as an act of control. So that can be played out a lot when we're in scenarios like this, which can lead to what Karen's talking about, this increase in relational violence and increase in violence, where people have access to people, usually in the context we're currently in, being in the home, being in relational violence. And then the other piece, so both people needing more support because there is more violence happening right now, potentially. And also, as Karen mentioned, people who have had violence, sexualized violence historically, having symptoms around that increase right now. I imagine, whoever's listening, whether you've experienced violence or not, you can relate to in general right now, you're probably feeling some levels of stress. It's probably going up and down. There's kind of like this increased overall level of stuff we're all having to deal with right now. So if you take that on top of you were already managing a lot of stress, past trauma symptoms, that sort of thing, it's like, pushing people up and closer to their edge of managing and coping. And what I've noticed a lot working with people in the program that I do, which is more longer term, so people that usually aren't in a crisis state, is people, who are doing deep work and processing historic things, who are now in the place of like, I haven't felt like this in years. I've learned how to manage all these things, and now all of a sudden I'm back in this crisis state that I thought I had shifted out of. And it's so frustrating because I put so much work into my healing journey, and now I'm back at this place again. because of all the external stressors. Some people being pushed into situations, maybe their living situation, they might not be living with an abuser, but they're living with someone they don't have or I should say they may not be living with a physical abuser, they might be living with someone where there's a more emotionally abusive or not quite healthy relationship that way. And before this, they were able to, have support outside of the home, spend a lot of time outside of the home. But these sort of situations are it's creating a pressure cooker in that sense, and people being more highly exposed to stuff that they mediated in other ways when they were able to. And so that a lot of that is, I think, shifting people who weren't in crisis states before back into crisis states, and in that way needing and wanting and deserving more support.
So, for example, if I'm someone watching this video and thinking, I haven't had contact with the Victoria Sexual Assault Center before, but I'm realizing in this heightened sense of crisis or stress, perhaps old memories of past trauma, sexual assault trauma are coming up. Is it okay for me to reach out to seek help for that? Or, I'm thinking about maybe someone's thinking, oh, maybe my needs aren't as critical as other needs, but maybe you could speak to the support that we can offer people from childhood sexual assault experiences or any time in their lifetime, like what we can offer, any suggestions on what that person can do if that's coming up for them.
So the primary thing to do is to contact our access line. So you can leave a voicemail or you can email us. So our access line is 250-383-3232. And our email is access@vsac.ca. And you can access those on our website very easily. Rachel and I are checking those messages and emails on a regular basis. Actually, we're both in office currently, like working out of the office currently. So here, and we can access all of the information or provide all the information you need. So what we will do is talk to you, provide support, provide information, and assess you for the different services that VSAC provides and kind of direct you in that direction. And also just provide a little bit of support for you. There may be a little bit of a delay. You're not going to get a phone call right back. It may take a few days, sometimes up to sometimes a couple of weeks, but we will get back to you, honest. And it is what we will do is assess you and see, if you are having a significant amount of difficulties coping with something sexual violence that has occurred in the past, then you may be able to access a few sessions in our crisis program. So we'll connect you with one of our counselors. They'll contact you by phone or email and set up either phone or video counseling. With people who are relatively stable but are kind of going, oh, well, this is up and I want to start looking at this, is we may refer you to what was our information meeting, which is now being provided individually. And if you're wanting to talk about your options regarding talking to the police, we'll refer you to our victim service workers, and they'll reach out to you and go through your options. And again, I want to emphasize that you do not have to make a police report to access services here. It's just another option for you to look at if that's what you're wanting to explore.
Yeah, I think I mean, Karen just gave you all the logistical information. I would just echo, of course, yeah, if you're feeling that, do reach out. There's no relative scale of, is my trauma bad enough to need support? That's not how it works. It's not what it's about. If you're needing, if you're wanting, if you're desiring some support, please do reach out. If it's not to us, there's other resources in the community. There's Vancouver Island Crisis Line. Reaching out to you might look like something else. It might look like talking to someone that you trust and to be non-judgmental about it. But just emphasizing that it's really normal for things to come up at any point in time, and especially so in a situation where all of our beings, our bodies, our nervous systems are getting totally activated by everything going on. So just wanting to really normalize that experience, and that in whatever way it's showing up for you, it doesn't matter what the like degree of your trauma is. That doesn't have any relationship to the fact that you deserve and can get support.